I'm Naya, welcome back to the channel. Today I have another deck profile for you, but this time no spicy combo included. For that you're gonna have to check out my previous video in which we came up with an amazing Drytron combo. But today I invited my friend and teammate to the channel because he got top 8 at the remote duel invitational qualifier playing IDS, Invoked Dogmatika Shaddoll, and he's got some interesting choices, some interesting ratios, so let's go ahead and get started. Hey, hi, welcome.
Hey there.
Hey, hey. Anything to say? Anything to say about the deck, for example, before we start?
There are gonna be a lot of ratios that are gonna look weird, but I'm gonna explain them. Just stick around. I swear it'll make sense in the end.
Okay, dope, great.
All right. So well, everybody knows IDS. Obviously, it's been
Yep.
Alistair's been meta for 4 years. So the obvious, the
Mm-hmm.
3 normal summon,
Mm-hmm.
the 3 meltdown,
Mm-hmm.
the terraforming. And the one weird ratio that's gonna become more obvious later, the 3 invocation.
Okay, so wanna say anything about it now or just talk about it later?
Well, I guess I can bring it up real quick. I
Okay.
am actually playing 3 Pot of Desires in this deck, so the ratios are a bit weird at first
Yeah.
glance, but with Desires you really can't afford to like banish like just two invocation if you're only playing 2,
Mm-hmm.
because then obviously your invoked engine is dead. So it does occasionally brick a little bit more, but at the same time, if your Alistair gets hand trapped, it's more likely that you're gonna have invocation already in hand for the follow up.
And the opponent is just gonna be mad.
Yeah, they're always mad.
They are.
Don't.
They are mad.
So that's it for the invoked engine.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the Dogmatica engine,
Mm-hmm.
it's also very expansive. With 3 Ecclesia, 3 Maximus, 2 Fleur, 3 Nadir, and a Punishment.
Okay.
Uh, so the reason for 3 Maximus, which hasn't been played in about forever, is I really want to see Schism. Schism is such a good card that you really, really want it on your opening turn. So I really just wanted to maximize ways of seeing it without including without including a main deck Shaddoll engine, because I feel like even though Shaddoll Fusion is an amazing card that lets you fuse from the deck, it breaks boards,
Mm-hmm.
the main deck Shaddolls themselves are bricks in the vast majority of cases.
But you did test it out with Shaddolls, right?
Yes, I've been playing the Shaddoll version for about 3 or 4 months before I switched over to this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been playing it for about a month and a half, 2 at this point, and I'm honestly liking it more over the Shaddoll version.
Okay.
There's also more space for hand traps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second flare was sort of a last minute inclusion because of the lack of Shaddoll, the deck does slightly struggle to go for games.
Mm-hmm.
So I sort of and with the desires, it does often happen that you banish the one-off flare. So I just wanted to really make sure that I can push for game when it's available.
Okay.
The only Dogmatica card I've been considering cutting is Punishment. As good as the 2 pops are when you send Entis, it really, like with the Fleur example, it it really kind of hinders your follow-up. If you only see the Dogmatica stuff, it's fine,
Mm-hmm.
but as soon as you see Alistair, it just becomes a mess when you can't really utilize it.
Yeah, of course.
So that's it for the Dogmatica cards.
Mm-hmm.
Next up are the hand traps, which I played quite a bit. Oh, well, actually before that, the honorary
Of
Dogmatica card,
course.
I suppose.
The Dogmatica card.
Um, the card that wins you like half your games. It's
If
so
not
stupid,
more.
honestly.
Yeah.
If not more, like so many decks just cannot deal with Winda in engine, and like half of the deck like need rely on stuff like Dark Ruler to out it.
Of course.
As for the hand traps, it's quite the set. So we have 3 Veiler, 3 Ash, 2 Bell, and 3 Imperm.
Okay.
Um, the reason for so many hand traps is with the setup the way it is. Like since I don't have Shaddoll fusion, um, you do need like to stop your opponent a little bit more in order to like break their board completely. And also in a pinch, you can always normal summon either Veiler, Ash, or Bell, and go into All Mirage and secure Gardena for a Maximus setup, or
Okay.
rather a Schism setup.
Okay.
Imperm, I suppose, is the only hand trap that doesn't play into talents. That's why I wanted to include it as well. And with the amount of Tri Brigades running around, Imperm Veiler stop their normal summon, Bell stops the Revolt, Ash stops Nerval. So really, it's kind of designed to really hinder first of all Tri Brigade. Um, I I am sort of contemplating some different hand traps, perhaps Coalmeister against Prank Kids, as it's a bit of a tougher matchup without the Shaddolls, but it's manageable.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Winda is manageable against Prankets by
Yeah,
itself.
yeah, that's always the play. But in case you either don't have access to Schism, which is kind of rare, so more like if you get hand trapped or if you go second, you really need to guarantee that their opponent won't be ending on any sort of unbreakable board that your engine just won't be able to go through.
Okay.
Um, so that would be it for the hand traps. What's left is the sort of power spells, you could say. Um, the previously mentioned 3 desires and the triple tactics talent, the 2 cosmic cyclone, and the 1 called by the grave.
Okay, so talk
Um,
to me about that. How did talents like work out?
Honestly, talents have been overperforming since I got them to a insane point. Like when you already have like access to both the Invoked engine and the Dogmatika engine, you can just rip the one answer they have to Winda out of their hand, so they're relying on top decking the out, which is which most decks don't run a lot of since IDS has sort of been kind of fading out of the meta. Um, so I was kind of banking on the fact that not as many people would be prepared for it. Um, I do suppose like the only kind of downside is like a lot of people, including myself, do main cosmic cyclones to hit the pandemonium or the schism in the standby phase.
Yeah.
Um, but overall, if you still, even without the schism, in most instances, you do still have like enough interruptions between Fleur, Mechaba, and your various hand traps to stop your opponent. Um, so I mean, tactics and call by are do sort of serve the same purpose. As consistent as the deck is, it is sort of weak to hand trap. Um, So obviously you want to stop any sort of hand traps on Alistair so you can get to the one negate. You want to stop a Bell on Apcalone or Veiler on Maximus. Um, I mean I don't think I need to explain Called by the Grave too
Yeah,
much. It's at one for a reason.
of course.
Um, and with it, as far as tactics go, with the density of like good cards in this deck, like you rarely draw badly when you go for the draw two effect, and the change of heart effect, especially when you're against Dragoon, is just insane.
That's true.
So that would be all for the main deck. The main deck is actually 43 cards. I
43.
know
Interesting.
43. Um, I mean, I honestly couldn't decide what to cut. Like just
Mm-hmm.
about every card is useful for a certain matchup,
Mm-hmm.
and the ones that aren't, I can easily just side out. But
Mm-hmm.
especially the hand traps are pretty much generic that can at least serve some use in just about every matchup.
True, but that's also very meta dependent also. So if something like just goes out of the meta, you can just cut it and go to 40 if you wish.
True, true. I can like if Tri Brigade, for example, gets hit on the next ban list, I am definitely cutting Bell as it's mainly for Revolt, although it does also hurt the Prank Kids
It
players
does. Yeah,
if
it has
you
other applications, but it's not as strong, I guess, in this format at least, I think.
yeah, there's not that many uses. You can occasionally, like, I don't know, maybe hit a boot sector launch that's summoning from the grave, but
For
mostly it's for
example, yeah.
tri brigades.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on to the main deck, or rather the extra deck. Um, Instead of Artemis, I was actually playing All Mirage and Secure Gardena. Like I mentioned before, with Maximus, you can normal summon Alistair or normal summon a hand trap and go into a Schism setup with Maximus since you
Mm-hmm.
are playing effectively 9 copies of it. And with the triple desires and the 3 triple tactics talent, you see it in just about every hand.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is the BLS Link, which has been coming up a lot.
Yeah, we talked about that, right?
Yeah, like it's insane, especially against like strikers, which I've been seeing admittedly less of than right after the ban list hit,
True, yeah.
but there's still a solid amount, and like with random Eldritches running around, they have a difficulty outing this, especially after if you choose the attack boosting effect.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then just sometimes you just kind of want to make it sort of to maybe deal with problem cards with the banishing effect,
Mm-hmm.
or even to get yourself out of the Windelock. I do often on turn 3 go into it with either a Winda, Alistair, and Maximus,
Mm-hmm.
or I do firstly use Winda into a construct, so I use construct, Fleur, or rather Ecclesia and Alistair to go into the
Uh-huh,
BLS
okay.
Link. Since handily enough, construct is a level 8, so thank God for that.
Thank God for that.
Uh, but yeah, even the non-targeting banish, it just gets you so much value over time.
Mm-hmm.
It's I mean, obviously it's no Dragoon, but still, if they don't deal with it quickly, it becomes a problem for them.
It does indeed, yeah.
Next up, the Invoked Fusions.
Mm-hmm.
Two Makaba, Ogoides, Ragin, and Kaliga.
Okay.
Um, First of all, like I've been seeing a lot of players cut the Makaba,
Mm-hmm.
cut one Makaba because I do admit myself it's not as impactful this format. The one negate doesn't, I believe, doesn't do as much. At least feels like
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's especially when you get hand trapped, it's hard to like afford the discard. It is sort of heavy on the resources at
Mm-hmm.
times. But it's been coming up a lot, the second one, in especially
Okay.
in grindier matchups versus salads versus strikers, even often in tri brigade matchups, because they do tend to grind with revolt quite a bit,
Yeah.
especially if you don't
True.
manage to get schism online.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only other one I sort of need to explain is Kaliga.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, it has been coming up often,
Mm-hmm.
especially against combo decks. Um, Often, like when you draw like I don't know 3 hand traps and Alistair,
Mm-hmm.
you you really don't have like enough gas to push too much, and like I said before, going into Mekaba after you've like hand trapped your opponent 2 or 3 times, is sort of hard because you can't again you can't afford the discard.
Mm-hmm.
So Kaliga does a fine job of at the minimum stalling, or at the very or at like in optimal scenarios it does actually like lock your opponent out of effectively playing for 2 or 3 turns, and by then you've definitely like got more than enough resources to
Okay.
capitalize and go for game.
What
So
about
that
Purgatrio?
Purgatrio, yeah, I mean I've been testing it out quite a bit, but I just haven't been happy with it.
Okay.
Even though I am playing the Almirage, it just hasn't come up enough. And like it's the only invokes fusion that I was considering that isn't like any sort of interruption. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Kaliga technically isn't an interruption either, but it's a floodgate.
Yeah, of course.
Um, so I mean, it does occasionally come in handy to like go for game, but those instances are so few and far between. I thought it would be better to run Kaliga,
Okay.
as it does come up surprisingly often.
Okay, that's fair.
That would be the Invoked Fusions. Next up are the very obvious, the three
Mm-hmm.
Shaddoll names. I don't think I need to go through this.
Yeah.
App Cologne is there to fetch Schism. Construct is there to
To
get
fetch
either
Schism.
get rid of
Yeah.
to either fetch Schism or get rid of Winda,
Mm-hmm.
and Winda is just Winda.
Yeah.
That's about it. Um, Next up is two Entis.
Okay.
The reason I was running two actually is, especially going second, it does come up often. You
Mm-hmm.
do like you do very often like activate Nadir, send Entis, pop something, and then banish Entis for Maximus,
Mm-hmm.
and send another Entis with Maximus to pop a second card. So it does like help a lot in breaking boards. You do although in most cases, like you do, if you banish it for Ogoides, you do often go for game. But
Mm-hmm.
just in case, you can always rely on having a second one in
Yeah,
case
of course.
your first one gets called by or something.
Yeah, and you also have
Uh,
enough space in the extra deck, I think.
yeah, there's honestly more than enough space for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe I've been considering a few tech choices, but overall, like the extra deck does have some flex spots, as
Mm-hmm.
is evident since I'm running like stuff like Kaliga.
Yeah.
Um, Next up is, well, obviously the Titanic clad.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not much to say. I run eight main deck Dogmatica cards, so
Mm-hmm.
obviously I need the Titanic clad as well.
Also, yeah.
Um, and the last extra deck monster would be Omega.
Okay.
I have been considering cutting this.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of going back and forth, but it does come up, especially when your opponent has some really powerful floaters, especially Ray in the Grave.
Yeah.
Shuffling those back into the deck is it tends to get you out of very sticky situations.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it for the extra deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the side deck was sort of experimental, sort of not.
Okay.
Like I'll explain my choices as I go through. The three droll, very obvious. Against dry, it's powerful against Drytrons,
Mm-hmm.
powerful in the mirror. Against prank kids, it can come up, although I do tend not to side it.
Yeah.
Um, every now and then it's good because you can make Raging with it,
Mm-hmm.
and flipping their normal summon face down does often tend to end their turn.
Most of the
Um,
time, yes.
so yeah, it's droll. It stops searching, which is kind of rampant.
Yeah, true.
Um, the three Nibiru
Mm-hmm.
is obviously against combo deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been sort of debating on, do I want to actually run three or do I just want to run two? Because I do feel like I don't know, Tri Brigades, which are obviously the most prominent deck in the format at the moment, do tend to either like not summon 5 times, especially if you hand trap them, or they go into Appaloosa on the
Yeah.
fifth summon. So in either case, like they're Nibiru proof. Um, but it does come up in enough matchups to where I think I do kind of need it, especially when somebody goes for an access code talker, just Nibiru them on
Yeah,
resolution and you're
of
good.
course.
Um, Next up are the one Thunder King and two Gamma Steel. This is supposed to be a third Gamma Steel, but I do not have one at the moment.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, consider this a third Gamma Steel. I've been struggling against a few decks, like mainly Drytrons, if I don't hand trap them enough.
Okay.
Um, and just throwing a turtle onto the ultimateness tends to like solve most of your issues.
Tends to do the
Um,
work, yep.
yeah, it tends to do the work. I mean, you still have to chew through the two orange lights they tend to have in hand, but most of the time it's enough so that you can like get into a favorable position
Okay.
and like establish schism from there. Also against like any, I wasn't expecting them all too much, but against any like random Atagnister player, I could just have an out to the Link stick.
Yeah, also true. Also Striker.
Yeah, Striker does tend to struggle with them a lot. The reason I run Gamma Seal is obviously because it's the lowest attack one.
It's the
I
smaller
have
one, yeah.
been Yeah, I have been contemplating maybe either Gadarla or perhaps three of the Thunder King instead. Um, but I feel like as for Gadarla, it like the barrier statue isn't popular enough to justify
No,
it,
it's not,
and,
yeah.
and the extra like 500 attack does come up because you need to use like a boosted Makaba to get over it or something, like to boost it with Alistair. So I was just thinking like a Gamma Seal would be the best option. I was considering like maybe running 3 Thunder Kings for like
Yeah.
the light attribute, but since I'm not running any main deck Shaddoll fusions or anything, I didn't think like the light attribute was relevant enough for it to come up.
Okay.
Then it's the one Pankratops. I don't think I need to go into this. It's Pankratops. It's an insane card. It just outs boards that it shouldn't out. It lets you
True.
win. It lets you, especially against like some back row matchups like strikers. It's just not a fair card. Then it's the back row hate, the 3 Lightning Storm, the Feather Duster, and the third Cosmic Cyclone. Um, Lightning Storm honestly performed really well.
Did it?
I would, yeah, especially against like Tri Brigades. They obviously they don't make any spell and trap negate no matter their board. So a single lightning storm calling monsters like leaves them on revolt, which if you have like the bell in hand or just a way or like another cosmic to bait it out or something, it's just kind of a free game from there.
True.
It does like the main deck Shaddolls do give you a lot of value. But since I'm not running them, it you do sort of struggle a little bit more to keep up with resources.
Yeah, so you just
Harpy,
compensate with that, basically.
yeah, yeah, same with Harpy's Feather Duster, although obviously it doesn't come up in the Tri Brigade matchup as much.
Yeah.
Um, and the third Cosmic getting the Prank Kids Pandemonium in
Preferably the
standby.
Pandemonium, yep.
Yeah, hopefully they just set the Pandemonium and you can be sure you're hitting it.
Yeah,
But
true, true.
sometimes they just set 2 or 3 cards and you
Sometimes
just
we
gotta
just
go for
bluff,
the
yes,
third.
because we want to keep it.
Yeah, you do often bluff. Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Wow. Anything else to say about the deck, or maybe any advice for anyone picking up the deck? Any last words?
anyone picking it up?
Well, first of all, they probably shouldn't because of the ban list. But
Yeah.
other than
First of
that,
all, do definitely wait for the ban list and the reprints, especially the reprint. Like the as much as I love the deck, I can admit even for me it was hard to justify the budget for it.
I
Um,
mean, but you do
so
like it though.
I enjoy it to death, even though I'm sure there are gonna be people in the comments like, oh God, he enjoys normal summon Alistair. What is wrong with him?
I mean, yeah, but you know, you're not the only one.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I guess I can say like it is sort of a linear deck at times, so be prepared for that. If you get bored of a deck easily, I would not recommend it. Um, it really does sort of reward the really niche technical play, really being conservative with your resources. It is like as far as the hand traps go, it was a very like meta call. You're free to switch them around. The only thing I wouldn't recommend is Gamma because
Okay.
you don't want to banish the driver with desires or something.
Yeah.
Um, and like and the light attribute doesn't come up as often like I said with the
With
kaijus.
your build, yeah.
Yeah. Um Other than that, I hope Nadir doesn't get hit on the ban list, but I guess we'll have
As
to
do
wait
many
and see for
others, yes.
that. As do many others indeed. Yeah.
Thank you very,
Uh,
very much for coming.
my pleasure.
All right. Well, for all of you, if you liked it, if you learned anything about the deck, make sure to give me a like, a sub. Also, check out Twitch. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.